I grew up in the middle of nowhere Midwest with cornfields all around. Naturally, this meant I ended up at church eventually, given my rural community's fixation on Christianity and conservative values. The Baptists sought to baptize the blasphemous me, who was only a blasphemer because I was poor and roughly reared. I am a 90s baby, which means my early childhood coincided with 9/11, the Iraq War, and a massive wave of Islamophobic propaganda. By some miracle, I didn't give in to that social messaging, and I cast Christianity to the side at the age of 8 when I had a conversation with my pastor about Allah, the little I knew of him. I had said, not using these words, that Islam and Christianity have the same God, but just believe in different ways of worshiping him, with a capital H. Now, I was only 8, so this statement is obviously less complicated than anything I would make now, something I wouldn't even try to make without a copious secular knowledge and understanding, with a side of theocratic study. The pastor's response stood out to me, though. He quietly said something like, "No, theirs is a worship of hate and evil." I didn't say anything more because at 8 years old, I wasn't quite confident enough to verbally joust with adults. This is the story I constantly thought about while playing Blasphemous 2. Religion has been around for a long time, and it's done marvelous things for human civilization, while paradoxically being one of the worst institutions we've ever created as a species. Blasphemous 2 plays around with the ideas from the get-go, setting the player in a macabre world crafted off the basis of Christian mythology and Spanish Inquisition-era aesthetics. Tasked with the ending of the miracle, a heart that glows in the sky, you, the penitent one, have to adventure through this world, killing bosses, collecting abilities, and bathing in the sanctity of your enemy's blood. In this game, a lot of mechanics, such as fervor, play into the contemporary mythological framework of religion. In the real world, fervor refers to a person's dedication to the most fundamental version of a religion, and within Blasphemous 2, it refers to the player's ability to benefit from prayers and chants. In this way, the game mechanic is reflective of the real world characteristic, since a person can't benefit from prayers and chants if they never believed in them in the first place. And that's one of Blasphemous 2's best aspects, the way that it plays with the theming of its religious backdrop, and the way that that plays into the mechanics such as fervor, the way that that plays into the prayer beads, and also into the carvings of saints that you get power from. There's a sense of idolatry to the game that I really think stands out amongst its contemporaries in the genre and in the gaming landscape of 2023. A lot of people are calling Blasphemous 2 a Souls-like, and I understand where this comparison is coming from. The game has corpse runs, hard bosses, and a dark gothic world. I don't think Blasphemous 2 is a Souls-like, however, for a handful of reasons. Firstly, the corpse runs don't matter. In a Souls game, the corpse run mechanic is a risk-reward type thing, where if you fail to reach your corpse before dying, you lose currency experience. In Blasphemous 2, you only lose fervor, symbolizing the way your character begins to lose faith the more and more they die in a row. Just like the player loses faith in their own ability. However, faith isn't a requirement to succeed in the real world, and it isn't a requirement for success in Blasphemous 2 either. I like the way the game approaches the concept of death in this way because it opens the door to some great builds where you'll want as little fervor as possible, making the corpse run mechanic in Blasphemous 2 the antithesis of the one in the Soulsian series. In modern gaming, if a game has a hard boss, Dark Souls or other From Software titles are the easy comparisons gaming journalists and gamers alike use to describe the game. I get why people do this because it creates an easy shorthand for others to understand what you mean, but it's also fallacious to claim that hard bosses and corpse runs are the two mechanics that make a game a Souls-like. Hard bosses have existed forever in the industry, and the bosses in Blasphemous 2, which I didn't find any measure of difficult outside of like 2 of them, don't make it Soulsian in nature, and we've already covered the way the corpse run mechanic in this game separates it from the one in the Souls genre of games. And finally, a dark gothic world doesn't make a game Souls-like by the nature of its inclusion, a point I don't need to belabor further. I'm explaining why this game isn't a Souls-like to highlight how good of a Metroidvania it is. That's what this game's genre is, Metroidvania, and that's all it is. To talk about it in any other context is to muddy the waters and detract from the honest-to-God conversations and intellectual discourse regarding why not only you should be playing Blasphemous 2 right now, even if you don't like Souls-likes, and also why you should absolutely platinum this title if you're a fan of Metroidvanias. Blasphemous 2 has 6 Metroidvania abilities for the player to collect, and each adds a great element to exploration. I made a video earlier this month called Top 10 Reasons Blasphemous 2 is one of the best Metroidvanias ever, and I stand by everything I said in that ranking. The abilities and biome design in this game made me crave exploration, and even though I had 6 active games at the time, I began to prioritize this one over games like Armored Core 6, Sea of Stars, and others. The Metroidvania elements are king, and they are supplemented by great boss design. Every time I walked into a boss room, I didn't know what to expect, but I was never let down by anything I saw or fought. Even the bosses that were on the lower quality side, such as Sonodo, were still leaps and bounds above bosses in other games. Bosses should always feel like a reward at the end of an area, and in this game they do. I've already ranked all of these bosses on the channel, so if you want to check that out, please do. And the last thing I want to talk about before getting into the nitty-gritty of the trophy list is the art direction. The art direction in Blasphemous 2 is divine. Divine in a dark, sacrilegious way. In the real world, religion is supposed to conjure images of light, love, and laughter. But within Blasphemous 2, religion is dark, depressing, and deadly. And in that way, it's an inversion of the real life version of religion that we were coded to believe in from early ages. For those of you who have been hurt by religion in one way or another, this interpretation of the concept is going to appeal to you. Throughout the game, you'll meet several characters who have some weird thing they're doing to show their devotion to the miracle. And all these characters are memorable and add an extra layer of beauty to this game's design. The story in this game is told through that art direction, with minimal dialogue and cutscenes to fill in the blanks. I don't fully understand what happened in Blasphemous 2 story-wise, and I don't need to. When I read Dante's Inferno in high school, I barely comprehended it, but it didn't matter because experiencing it was of value in and of itself, and Blasphemous 2 is the same way. It's one of those things that's better with the missing blanks, in the same way that it's interesting how we'll never know what the missing tablets from the Bible, Gilgamesh, or any variety of ancient tales say. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter when it comes to belief or the appreciation of this story. All that matters is that it's good the way it is, and our interpretation is valid, regardless of what that interpretation is. At this point, I have to say I recommend Blasphemous 2 with as much fervor as I can muster. If anything I've said so far sounds interesting, play the game. I rate games based off of the PlayStation trophy denominations, and this is a platinum tier game in my book. An absolute must-play Metroidvania. But now, 'tis time to talk about the trophy list. From this point forward, I'm going to go a little minor spoilery here, so this is your warning, because I am going to be talking about specific trophies and my impressions of them. My review of Blasphemous 2 is over. It's beautiful, it is worthy of praise, you should play it. This, from this point forward, is going to be about the trophy specifically and whether the platinum is worth attaining. Once you finish the game, come back here if you'd like to know whether you should platinum it or not. A good trophy list promotes experimentation, and the Game Kitchen have done so with their list. You'll have to use every weapon, unlock every chant and prayer, and find every item and figure. With all of these tools, you'll be able to experiment with a vast variety of builds, and the game lets you save loadouts by visiting the Carpenter in the City of the Blessed Name. A lot of Platinums task the player with 100% completion, and most of the time, this is genuinely awful. Assassin's Creed games are particularly egregious in this way, and they're such a nightmare to plat that I don't even bother anymore. Blasphemous 2 isn't like that at all though. The collection process is fun, and since I did most of it guideless, I got the extra joy of being being able to make connections in my brain between things I had just unlocked and things I had seen hours and hours ago. Memory isn't everyone's strong suit though, and this game doesn't require you to do a lot of memorizing. It has an amazing sticker system where you'll be able to mark areas of the map with a variety of stickers to remind yourself of what you've missed there. I use this tool constantly, and it's part of the reason I didn't miss anything throughout the game. Whenever I entered an area and I couldn't access something, I marked it right away, and I really suggest that you guys do that because I have seen people on Reddit complain about missing one item and not being able to find it. You literally have to open every single box. So if you see a box, you put a sticker on that map right away. By the end of the game for my playthrough, there were only a handful of items I was missing, and most of them were cherubs, those Cupid looking guys, and vials of blood. Most of the time when a game has several ending specific trophies, it means that you'll need to play the game multiple times and get them all. Blasphemous 2 isn't like that at all. Once you beat the final boss, you're reset to right before the encounter, and you'll be able to finish what you need to do to unlock the other ending. If this feature didn't exist, I wouldn't have the platinum right now, because I wouldn't have had the time to play through the whole game twice in a row, considering my 2023 backlog is ever stacking up. There are 2 trophies on the list that initially made me leery of going for the platinum, but I'm here to tell you that they aren't that bad at all. There's a speedrunning trophy that requires you to reach a certain area in the game within 30 minutes, but all you have to do is gather the other 2 weapons at the beginning of the game and go down to the Sentinel of the Emery location, and it's really a route that's not hard to memorize at all. That's really it. That's as simple as it is. It took me 3 tries to pull off, maybe an hour, and the first 2 attempts I just gave up when I died because dying would waste too much time. I found this trophy to actually be a good time, and I'm glad they included it. And finally, there's a trophy that requires you to kill a boss without getting hit. At first glance, this may seem kind of difficult, but I created a 9 infinite time loop build, and within a couple of tries, I had Devotion and Karnat down for the count. This trophy ended up being one of my favorite things to do in the game in general. So now the question I present to you is, should you platinum Blasphemous 2? There's a few stats you should consider before diving right in. The platinum took me 23 hours to finish, making it a short completion process on my scale. I found the difficulty to be kind of normal level, like you might die a few times, but there's no real part where you're gonna have to get good. There's some challenge, but nothing that requires any insane min-maxing or, oh my god, I died 50 times in a row or anything like that. I died max 5 times on any particular boss. There's a lot of tools in the game that make pretty much any challenge in the game go away whatsoever. There are absolutely broken, busted builds. If you find yourself getting stuck, look something up because there are the chants in this game are amazing. Blasphemous 2's platinum did require some guided cleanup for finding the last bit of cherubs that I was missing, and this can be a deal breaker for some people. I didn't find it too much of a problem in this game, so I don't consider this particular aspect a negative. I think some amount of guides can actually make the game more fun if you're just kind of putting out a podcast and it doesn't take too long. If you really want this kind of contextualized a little bit, it's better than the way God of War 2's collection process, or not God of War 2, God of War 2018's collection process worked. I had to look at guides for like 10 hours hunting down all the individual collectibles. In this game, it took me an hour to clean up the list. Not even an hour, maybe like 30 minutes, and that was it. You do have to have a complete 100%, a speedrun challenge, and you do have to beat the final boss a minimum of twice, although since he's my recommended way of getting the no-hit challenge, I actually say you gotta beat him a minimum of 3 times. With all of these stats considered, I'm giving Blasphemous 2 a platinum rating for its trophy list. For Metroidvania fans and trophy hunters, this is an absolute must-have platinum trophy. This is one of the best ones I've ever gotten. This is the second game I've given a platinum rating to this year, with the first being Ghost of Tsushima, which I played for the first time back in February, April, March area. I love this game, and I definitely want to play more if and when the DLC for it comes out. I'll definitely be singing this game's praises during my top 10 games of 2023 video at the end of the year. And that's the video, guys. Are you interested in playing Blasphemous 2? Let me know in the comments below. And if you liked the video, please like, share, subscribe, and ding that bell for more really blasphemous gaming content in the future. Regardless of what you choose, my guys, make sure you have a great day, gamers.